So people, the other day I was shooting my Zion Webuilt S review and I shot all of the product B-roll shots completely handheld. And the technique is slightly different to what we've done in the previous epic B-roll sequences. So I thought it'd be quite an interesting tutorial to show you guys how you can get some really sick product B-roll shots, really simply, completely handheld. And thanks to the guys over at Artlist for sponsoring today's episode. Oh. You're all sweet. Today I'm going to be showing you how to do like some product B-roll. It's not epic B-roll because we all kind of know what epic B-roll is. You just kind of do something crazy and like make it look cool. I told myself I wasn't going to do another B-roll video, but I feel like this one has actually got a lot of value for everyone watching, because it doesn't matter if you're a YouTuber, a wedding videographer, someone who shoots like loads of different client work for different brands. Product B-roll is usable in like pretty much every single different avenue of filmmaking and videography. So yeah, I felt like this one was going to be valuable for the people, mate. So I had to put it out there, didn't I? You know, I'm always here to like give the value and that. So that's what we're going to do today, mate. So the only thing that you actually need to shoot some product B-roll is your product, obviously, a table or a worktop, and something slick. Listen, mate, I've balanced you twice. What is going on with you? I've got blue tack and all sorts on the bottom. It should be fine. Make sure your product is secure before you start B-rolling it, mate. So the key light, we've got a Godox. That's going onto there, that's the key light. That is the main light that's lighting up the actual product. We've got the same light, shooting a blue gel onto the background, diffused, so that we get this nice kind of like haloed blue background. I've got a little accent bulb in the back there, and then I've got a little backlight that is essentially giving a nice, naughty, little kick of orange on the edges and kind of like separating it from the background. So, oh yeah, and shout out my two little cameras over there that are doing this. Do you know what I mean? Cool. So next up, the only thing that you actually need to start doing this is obviously a table that is hopefully quite slippery and slidey. It can obviously be a worktop like in a kitchen or something like that, but if you're shooting product, then you're probably going to want to have a set that actually emphasizes the product and does the job for the client or whatever you're essentially shooting this product for. Next thing you're going to want is something slippery. I've found that the inserts of my camera bag are like quite nice and slippery on the table. I have found though that this one, for some reason, I know that just went really far, but that wasn't meant to happen. This one here, this little red one, is actually a lot slipperier than this one. So you know what, mate, that one later on. So what we're going to do with this is we're essentially going to use this as a pad for our camera to slip on as we shoot the product. So essentially, what the deal is, we're going to use this as a gimbal. Now you don't have to use like an insert of a camera. This is just something that I found that worked really well. You can use like a piece of cardboard. You can use probably a bit of tissue, mate, to be honest. Now, first up, we actually need to talk about stabilization. There's loads of different factors that you need to factor in when it comes to actually stabilizing your camera. Now, you're gonna get much better shots if you've got in-body image stabilization or optical stabilization. If you've got both of them, you're pretty much laughing, mate. Also, the heavier your rig, the more stable your shots are gonna be, so try and rig out your camera if you can. I like to keep it minimal. You lot know me, this lens is more than heavy enough for what I need it to do. Obviously, your handheld operating is gonna stabilize the camera. The more practice you get, basically the more stable it's going to get, essentially. Also, the frame rates that you're shooting in the camera are going to determine how stable the shot is as well. I personally like shooting 60 frames a second. You can go up to 120 frames a second, which is going to make it super smooth, but then you're going to lose a bit of light because you're stopping down on your shutter speed. I'm just shooting on the A7S Mark II. You lot know my setup. And then finally, we're going to be using warp stabilizer in our post-production process. Now, the hardest thing about actually shooting this kind of B-roll is the focus. So if you're shooting in f4 or above, you're gonna have a nice, like, slightly wider depth of field to actually allow the product to stay in focus. Anyway, people, let me get straight into this because I've been talking too much already. Now, we're essentially gonna keep the little slidey pad on the table, and we're gonna use that to sit our camera on top to slide along the top. Now you can obviously just stick the camera on there, or you can kind of use your hand underneath. It depends how you like to do it. Now if you want to put like a roll in there, you're clearly going to want to have your hand on the pad to give it a little bit more flexibility with your shot. Now first up, we need to decide the movement of what we're going to do with this. So a typical one for me is literally just going left to right and orbiting around the product. So let's start with that. So here we are on the right hand side. You can see the camera in the frame there, but like, you know, forget about that. And all we're literally going to do is just simply spin around the camera, yeah? Bosh. Now obviously the hardest part is actually keeping it in focus. So if you manually set your focus, you should then be able to keep the same distance from the actual product. That is probably the best way to actually keep your focus. Now another nice move is literally just like pushing in towards the product. You are gonna have to like manually tilt the camera with your hand, but I find that comes off really, really nice. Obviously, this is the hardest one to focus for because your focus point is moving from before the product and after the product by the time you've started and ended. So for me personally, I actually like to have my end point in focus. So I'm gonna find my end point for my focus. So it is right there. That is my final destination on my move, essentially. So you can either start from your focus point and move back, or you can start further back and slowly push in and your product will come into focus, mate. That for me is my favorite way of doing it. Now you can get like super technical in that, and you can, you know, kind of come around and tilt up and move in at the same time. I mean, like, that's a little bit of a naughty move, but I'm sure you lot can handle it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get my end focus point, and that is gonna be right about here. And I'm basically gonna come back and then up and tilt at the same time. So that is obviously quite a complex move, and it's going to take you quite, hold on a sec, let me see if I can get this perfect. Let's have a look. Oh, that is shocking, mate. That is f***ing shit. Right, hold on, let me see if I can get this. No, mate, this is terrible for me. Hating this. Right, one more time. Let me start out. That one will do, mate. That weren't too bad. I'll keep that one. So one thing to note, the faster your movement, the more smooth it's typically going to be. When you start going slow, you kind of get the jitters in your hands and it doesn't come out as nice. That's why it's better to go slow motion, like 60 frames a second and above. And if you go really fast, you can then slow it down and it looks a lot smoother. One thing that's really going to help you out is if you can get your center marker on your camera, that will allow you to essentially know where the center of your frame is all the time. So when you're orbiting around the product, you can essentially keep your center marker bang in the middle of the product the entire time you are spinning round. And it's basically just a way for you to keep your product in the center of the frame the entire time. Yeah, so yeah, that's how I shoot some product B-roll, mate. I mean, it's so bloody simple. I thought you lot can actually get a lot of value from this, so I better make a video about it. But hold on, I think we should actually go into the edit and have a little look at some of these clips to see how they've actually come out, mate. Because it won't be no good if the shots are shit, mate. I really hope these come out nice. So people, let's jump into this edit and see what we can do to make our shots a lot smoother. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna open up our rushes. These are our clips that we've shot throughout the entire video. Now, because we've shot our clips in 60 frames a second, it's going to come up that the frame rate is 59.94. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to select all of these clips. We're going to right click, we're going to go modify, interpret footage. Then we're going to go on assume this frame rate and we're going to change that to 24. Now you'll be able to do the exact same thing in Final Cut, it'll just be a slightly different workaround. Anyway, now them 60 frames a second clips are gonna play back at 24 frames a second. That's essentially gonna slow down the clip to about 40% of its original speed, so our clips are gonna be a lot smoother. Now we're gonna wanna go through our clips and find them really smooth shots. So let's put an in point here, let's find where this smooth part is. You know what? That's pretty good. I'm quite happy with that. So what I'm gonna do, I'm now gonna drag that clip into my timeline. So now that we've got our selected clip on the timeline, we're gonna go over to effects, and then we're gonna grab our warp stabilizer. We're gonna chuck our warp stabilizer on the clip, Then we might do a few minor adjustments to that. I don't usually like to have my smoothness at 50%. I usually like to bring it down to maybe like 10%, because if the smoothness is a lot higher, then the clip kind of just does a load of crazy stuff, and that's not what you want. So I usually keep my smoothness at around 5 to 10%, so obviously that is really, really low. Now, as you can see, some of the shots actually don't need warp stabilizer because they were pretty well stabilized by everything that we had when we was actually shooting it. Because when you use a stabilizer, it will crop in on the image a little bit and reduce the quality, so it is always better to try and not use a stabilizer if you don't have to. So once we've stabilized our clip and we've got it to a pretty good point, when we play that back, man, that clip is pretty damn smooth. So once I've got all of my selected rushes on my timeline, I'm now going to start to build my sequence. Now, when I build a sequence, the first thing I do is I find a track mate. Now, depending on the kind of project that it is, if it's for a client video, then I'm obviously going to want to pick a track that is actually suitable for the end product of that video. But a lot of the times I'm doing a lot of these videos for YouTube. So I want to kind of pick a track that actually works for the kind of video I'm making. Now, because this is a product B-roll video, I want a track that isn't too chaotic, got a nice little vibe to it, and you lot already know that I love a bit of house and techno, so I can't really help myself when it comes to that. Now, to select my track, I'm gonna go over to Artlist. You lot already know, I don't need to bang on about Artlist too much, because you lot know I've been using it for like the last 4 years. I actually reached out to Artlist to see if they wanted to sponsor this video, because I said to myself, in 2020, every different collaboration that I do with a brand, I'm gonna make sure that it's a brand that I reach out to instead of the brand reaching out to me, because that means that I already use the service and I know that it's going to be extremely valuable to you lot. And I think that Artlist is probably the most valuable thing that creators can have at the moment. It's literally $199 a year, mate. You get unlimited access to every single track on there for whatever production you want to do. Now, that's commercial projects, that's wedding videos, that's YouTube videos, any different kind of production that you can think of, you're covered on, mate. So the track that I selected for this video is in one of my collections. I basically try and make a new collection every single quarter. Now, I'll also make another collection if I've got like a specific client project on. I'll get all of the tracks in that I think will fit that particular project. And then when it comes to actually making the project, I've got a list of tracks that are already in the kind of genre that I'm looking for that I can just pick through. And yeah, I'm basically looking in my 2020 Q1. You can obviously see I have my Webuilt S options here for my recent video that I just put out. So yeah, man, the track that I'm picking is called Film Noir by Stanley Gurvich. I can then chuck it in the project and I can absolutely go to town on my cheeky little sequence, because I'll actually use the pacing and the cuts in the track to decide how I'm going to kind of do speed ramps and make the sequence kind of interesting. I'm probably going to do another video on how you can actually add little accents like speed ramps and stuff to your edit to make it look a bit naughty. Anyway, people, Anyway, people, thank you so much for watching this video. I really do hope that it gives you some really, really good little filmmaking tips to add into your filmmaking toolkit. I'll leave a little link in the description so that you lot can go and get yourself 2 months for free at Artlist. That will be an affiliate link, so if you actually go and purchase, then I will get a little commission, and maybe I can come off of the really cheap energy drinks, and you never know, maybe get myself like an actual Red Bull. That'll be quite peng, and I might be able to get some weeds. Anyway, people, I'm only messing about. Have a sick week or weekend, depending on what day you are watching this video, and I'll be catching you lot in the next one, mate. Bosh.